Welcome back, everybody, to the deep dive. Today, we are going to be looking at child sponsorship software
Oh, yeah.
for nonprofits and specifically how to measure its return on investment.
Okay.
So, ROI. And you have sent over some really fantastic articles
Uh,
about this. And we're going to break down what's most important for, our listeners out there
Yeah.
who are working at nonprofits and trying to, decide,
Right.
if this is the right move, if they should be investing in this.
Absolutely. And it's a hot topic right now.
It is.
A lot of organizations are thinking about this.
Yeah. And, one of the stats that you sent over that just blew my
Oh,
mind
yeah.
was that some organizations who are using this type of software are seeing a 15 to 20% boost
Wow.
in sponsor matches within just the first year.
That's incredible.
That's huge.
Yeah, really is.
So clearly this technology has a lot of potential.
Yeah.
Okay, let's unpack this a
Okay.
little bit. We have got to talk about donor retention because, nonprofits, they need a steady stream of funding.
Of course, yeah.
And to do that, they really need to keep their existing donors happy.
Absolutely. And, acquiring new donors can be so much more expensive
Right.
than retaining the ones you already have.
For sure, for sure.
And so that's really where this software comes in.
Okay.
You can kind of think of it as like constantly monitoring the pulse of your donor base.
I like that.
Yeah. So the software can track things like the percentage of recurring donations,
Okay.
average donation amounts, that kind of thing.
So, instead of like reacting when a donor leaves, you're actually looking ahead
Yes, exactly.
and kind of keeping an eye on things, and you can address potential issues early on.
Yes, like you're being proactive instead of reactive.
Yeah.
Yeah. So is a donor's giving frequency dropping, or is their average donation amount decreasing?
Got it.
You can see those warning signs and reach out to that donor before they decide to stop giving altogether.
Wow. It's like having a crystal ball for your donor relationships.
Yeah, exactly.
That's incredible.
Yeah,
But let's not forget about the bottom line.
right.
We know these platforms are supposed to save nonprofits money,
Yes.
but how exactly does that work?
Well, one of the biggest ways is through automation.
Okay.
So you think about all the tasks that used to be done manually, like sending out letters,
Right.
processing donations, generating reports,
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. This software can automate those tasks,
Okay.
which means organizations can reduce staff hours and processing costs.
That makes sense. But beyond just like the obvious paperwork and communication,
Yeah.
what else can be automated?
Oh, lots of things.
Okay.
So imagine this. A donor visits a child's profile on the organization's website,
Mm-hmm.
but doesn't take any action.
Okay.
So the software can trigger an automated email sequence,
Okay.
offer them more information about the child, or highlighting the impact of sponsorship.
I see.
Or let's say a donor's credit card is about to expire.
Right.
The software can send them an automated reminder to update their payment information,
Wow.
preventing a lapse in their donation.
So it's not just about efficiency,
Right.
but it's also about using automation strategically
Yeah.
to keep donors engaged and prevent those donations from slipping away.
Absolutely. And that's a perfect example of how this software can actually help grow sponsorship programs too,
Oh.
by nurturing those donor relationships and
Wow.
making the giving process smoother. Organizations can attract and retain more sponsors.
And that brings us back to that impressive stat about increased sponsor matches.
Yeah.
It's not just about finding more sponsors, it's about creating a better experience
Right.
for both the sponsors and the donors, which ultimately leads to more successful matches.
You've hit the nail on the head.
Okay.
It's about creating a virtuous cycle where efficiency, engagement, and impact all reinforce each other.
Okay, so we've seen how this software can improve donor retention,
Yeah,
reduce costs, and even boost sponsorship growth.
absolutely.
But let's get down to brass tacks here.
Okay.
How do we actually calculate the return on investment, the ROI? You mentioned a formula in the articles that you sent over.
Yes, it's a pretty straightforward formula.
Yeah.
So ROI equals money gained minus total cost, divided by total cost, multiplied by 100.
Okay, money gained seems pretty self-explanatory, but what exactly falls under total costs?
So total cost includes both the upfront costs, so like the initial purchase and setup of the software,
Okay.
as well as ongoing costs like subscription fees,
Yeah.
maintenance,
Right.
any support you might need from the provider.
So it's not just about the sticker price, it's about factoring in all the expenses
Exactly.
associated with using the software over time.
Yeah, and it's important to remember that those costs can vary depending on the software you choose
Right.
and the features you need.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But what about the money gained side of the equation?
So money gained encompasses all the financial benefits you derive from using the software.
Okay.
So we've already discussed some of them, like savings from reduced staff hours,
Right.
increased donations from improved donor retention. It also includes any reductions in expenses related to printing postage, other administrative costs.
Got it.
And of course, it includes higher revenue generated from new sponsor signups and improved sponsor retention.
So it's a pretty comprehensive picture of how the software is impacting your bottom line.
Yes,
It's not just about looking at one number.
exactly.
It's about considering all the different ways the software is generating value.
You got a holistic view
Okay.
of the financial impact.
This might seem like a silly question,
Sure.
but I'm assuming measuring ROI isn't a one-time thing.
No.
It's something you need to track over time, right?
You're absolutely right. Think of it as an ongoing process of monitoring and evaluation.
Okay.
So are you still seeing those improvements in donor retention?
Mm-hmm.
Are administrative costs continuing to decrease? Is your sponsorship program growing at a steady pace?
Right.
And are you noticing improvements in staff productivity?
So it's about making sure the software is delivering on its promises
Yeah.
and that you're getting the most out of your investment.
Exactly. And if it's not, you can make adjustments along the way.
Got it.
Right? It's about using data to inform your decisions and ensure the software continues to align with your organizational goals.
Okay, I'm starting to get the big picture here.
Yeah.
But I am also curious about some real-world examples.
Yeah.
You mentioned World Vision in the articles that you sent over.
Yeah.
Can you tell us more about how they're using this type of software?
Yeah. So World Vision is a great example of an organization that's really effectively leveraged child sponsorship software
Okay.
to scale their impact. Their program now supports an incredible 2.5 million children
Wow.
across 36 countries.
That's amazing.
It is. And part of that success is due to their strategic use of technology
Yeah.
to streamline operations, enhance donor engagement, and track program outcomes.
Wow, 2.5 million children.
It's incredible.
That's amazing. So they're clearly doing something right.
They are.
What kind of features are they using to achieve these results?
Well, they're utilizing a range of features, but one that stands out is their use of predictive analytics for sponsor matching.
Hold on, back up a bit. What exactly are predictive analytics?
So it's a way of using data and algorithms to predict future outcomes.
Okay.
In the context of child sponsorship, it means the software can analyze data about potential sponsors,
Okay.
like their demographics, interests, and past giving history, and then match them with children who are most likely to resonate with them.
So it's about finding those perfect matches that are more likely to result in long-term sponsorships.
Yeah, exactly.
That's incredible.
It is, and it's just one example of how
Mhm.
technology is helping organizations make smarter decisions
Right.
and maximize their impact.
Okay, so we've talked about World Vision, but what about specific platforms?
Yes.
The articles that you sent mentioned one called Help You Sponsor.
Oh, yeah.
What are some of the key features that make it stand out?
So Help You Sponsor is a popular platform that offers a range of features designed to enhance program efficiency and outcomes. One of their standout features, as we just discussed, is predictive analytics for sponsor matching,
Right.
but they also have a strong focus on impact visualization.
Impact visualization. I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
So it's all about making the impact of sponsorship tangible and visible for donors.
Okay.
So think real-time progress tracking, interactive dashboards, and compelling visuals.
Gotcha.
Help sponsors see that direct link between their contributions and the positive changes happening in the lives of the children they support.
So it's one thing to read a report, but it's another thing entirely to actually see those real-world outcomes.
Exactly.
It makes the impact so much more real and tangible.
Absolutely. And that deeper level of engagement can lead to increased donor retention
Right.
and ultimately greater impact.
Okay, this has been incredibly enlightening.
Right.
But before we move on, I'm curious about some of the practical tips that you mentioned
Yes.
for getting the most out of this software. Where do we even begin?
Okay, well, one crucial aspect is training. And it's not enough to simply purchase the software you need to ensure your staff are equipped to use its features effectively.
So it's about making sure everyone is on the same page.
Yeah.
And that you're using the technology to its full potential.
Exactly. And as your program grows, you need to scale your software usage accordingly.
Okay, so it's about making sure that the software that you choose can grow as you grow.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
And don't underestimate the power of data analytics.
Okay.
These platforms offer a wealth of information about your donors, your program, and your impact.
So it's about going beyond gut feelings
Yeah.
and using data to make strategic decisions.
Exactly. Data-driven decisions.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this all ties together.
Good.
But we've covered so much ground already. Maybe it's time for a pause.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Before we dive into the next level of detail.
Okay, we've laid a solid foundation, and in the next segment, we can explore some more advanced strategies for maximizing ROI.
Sounds great.
All right.
We'll be right back after a short break.
Welcome back to the deep dive. Before the break, we were talking about some practical tips for really maximizing the ROI of child sponsorship software.
Right, we were talking about training staff.
Yeah.
Making sure that your staff is really well trained,
Yeah,
utilizing that data analytics.
absolutely.
It seems like a lot to juggle,
It is.
especially for smaller organizations.
It can be.
Yeah, who, are already stretched thin.
Right, you raise a valid point.
Yeah.
It's important to approach this strategically. One of the best ways to ensure you're getting the most out of your investment is to clearly define your organizational goals before you even start shopping for software.
So it's not just about finding like the coolest, most feature-packed software.
Yeah.
It's about finding the one that actually aligns with what you need.
Exactly. Are you primarily focused on boosting donor retention rates or streamlining administrative tasks?
Right.
Expanding your sponsorship program?
Okay.
Perhaps all of the above. Once you know what you want to achieve, you can select software that supports those goals and then track the metrics that matter most.
So it's about having a clear roadmap from the outset
Yeah,
instead of just like jumping in head first and hoping for the best.
exactly.
That makes a lot of sense, but technology changes so quickly.
It does.
How can you be sure that the software you choose today will still be relevant tomorrow?
That's where the concept of regular ROI review comes in.
Okay.
It's not a one-time calculation. It's an ongoing process of evaluating whether the software is still meeting your needs and delivering the expected returns.
So it's like a checkup for your software. You're not just setting it and forgetting it. You're
Right.
constantly assessing its performance and making adjustments as needed.
Precisely. And those adjustments might involve tweaking your usage of the software, or it might even mean switching to a different platform altogether if your needs have evolved.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But, we've been talking a lot about numbers and data, and I'm wondering if there's a risk of getting too caught up
Yes.
in the quantitative side of things and forgetting about the human element.
That's a really insightful point. While data is crucial for measuring ROI, it doesn't tell the whole story. It's also important to gather qualitative feedback from staff donors and even sponsors.
I can see how that would be really valuable.
Yeah?
Because numbers can tell you what's happening,
Right. Yeah.
but feedback can tell you why it's happening.
Exactly. Are your donors finding the communication through the platform helpful and engaging? Are your staff members finding the software intuitive and easy to use?
Right.
These are questions that data alone can't answer.
Okay, so it's about taking a more holistic approach,
Yeah.
considering both the numbers and the human experiences behind those numbers.
Precisely. It's about finding that balance between data-driven decision-making and the human touch that is so essential to this work.
You mentioned earlier that World Vision is a great example of an organization using this software effectively. Did they take this kind of holistic approach?
Absolutely. World Vision places a strong emphasis on gathering feedback from all stakeholders. They have systems in place to collect feedback from donors on their communication preferences,
Wow.
from sponsors on their experience with the platform,
Okay.
and even from staff on the usability and effectiveness of the software.
So they're really looking at it from all angles?
Yeah, they are.
Okay, I'm starting to see how these pieces fit together.
Right.
But let's break down the ROI factors a bit more.
Okay.
What are some of the key things that nonprofits should be tracking
Right.
to understand the return on their software investment?
One crucial factor is donor retention analysis.
Mhm.
We've touched on this already, but it's worth reiterating.
Okay.
By tracking retention rates over time and analyzing trends, organizations can identify what's working, what's not,
Right.
and make adjustments to their communication strategies and engagement efforts.
It's like using data to fine-tune your donor relationships
Yes.
and make sure that those vital donations keep coming in.
Exactly. Another important factor is administrative cost tracking.
Hmm.
Okay. The whole point of this software is to streamline operations and save money.
Right.
So you need to make sure that's actually happening. Track the time and resources saved through automation, and use that data to make informed decisions about resource allocation.
So if you're not seeing those cost savings, it might be a sign that you're not using the software effectively.
Right.
Or that it's not the right fit for your organization.
Exactly. And
Wow.
finally, don't forget about program impact metrics.
Okay.
It's not enough to just focus on the financial side of things. You need to track the real-world outcomes of your sponsorship program to understand the true value of your investment.
Okay, so we're talking about measuring things like child well-being,
Yeah,
educational outcomes, community development,
absolutely.
the things that actually matter at the end of the day.
Precisely. And when you can demonstrate those positive outcomes to your stakeholders, it reinforces the value of your program
Right.
and strengthens their commitment to your mission
That's powerful. It's about connecting the dots between the technology and the finances. Oh,
and real-world impact.
exactly. And as we delve deeper into the challenges of child sponsorship software, keep this connection in mind.
Challenges. Well, this sounds like a great place to pick up in the next segment. This is fascinating stuff.
Oh.
I'm eager to hear what else we uncover. Welcome back to the deep dive.
Okay.
It feels like we've just, scratched the surface
Yeah.
of how child sponsorship software can help these nonprofits.
Right.
But you mentioned some challenges
Yes.
that we need to be aware of.
That's right. No software is a magic bullet.
Right.
One of the first things that organizations grapple with is the upfront cost.
Okay.
These platforms can require a significant investment, especially for smaller nonprofits.
That makes sense. Yeah, it's not a decision to be taken lightly.
Exactly. And it's not just about the initial purchase price.
Right.
There are ongoing costs to consider as well, like subscription fees, maintenance, and support.
So you really need to factor in the total cost of ownership
Yes.
over time, not just that initial sticker price.
Yes.
Precisely, a thorough cost-benefit analysis is essential to ensure the software fits within your budget and aligns with your long-term financial goals.
Okay, that's a practical concern.
Yeah.
But what about ethical ones?
Right.
We're talking about children's information here, which
Yeah.
is incredibly sensitive.
You're absolutely right to raise that concern. Data security and privacy are paramount.
Okay.
Nonprofits need to be extremely careful about who they partner with.
So it's not just about finding software with the right features.
Right.
It's about really vetting that provider,
Yes.
their security protocols, making sure they're taking data protection seriously.
Exactly. A data breach could have devastating consequences both for the individuals involved and for the organization's reputation.
Absolutely. It's a responsibility that cannot be taken lightly.
It can.
What else should organizations keep in mind as they're evaluating these platforms?
Well, we've talked about the importance of staff training.
Right.
You need to make sure your team has the knowledge and skills to use the software effectively. And that often means ongoing support from the provider, not just initial training.
So it's an ongoing relationship.
Yes.
Not just a one-time transaction.
Precisely. And this ties into another potential challenge, the risk of becoming overly reliant on technology.
I can see how that could happen.
Yeah.
The software can automate so many tasks. It's tempting to think that it can solve all your problems.
It's a slippery slope. We have to remember that technology is a tool, not a replacement for human connection. The heart of child sponsorship is about building relationships both between sponsors and children, and between the organization and its supporters.
Right. So it's about finding that balance
Yeah.
between that
Yeah.
automation and that personal touch.
Exactly. The software can enhance those connections, but it can't replace them entirely.
That's a good reminder. Any other potential pitfalls that we should be aware of?
One final consideration is scalability. Your organization's needs will likely change over time, so it's important to choose software that can grow and adapt with you.
So you're saying it's not just about solving today's problems.
Right.
But it's about thinking ahead
Yeah.
and finding a solution that can evolve with your organization in the future.
Exactly. You want a platform that can handle increased volume, new initiatives, changes in your program structure.
Okay, well, we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
From the impressive ROI potential
Yeah.
to the very real challenges, it seems like there's a lot to consider before jumping into this world of child sponsorship software.
Absolutely. But I think the takeaway here is that technology can be an incredibly powerful force for good, especially in the nonprofit sector.
I agree. It's about using these tools thoughtfully and strategically to amplify your impact.
Exactly. And never forgetting that behind all the data and the automation are real children whose lives are being transformed by this work.
Well said. That's a perfect note to end on. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into child sponsorship software.
It's been a pleasure.
And to our listeners, we encourage you to keep exploring this topic and consider how technology can help you make a difference in the world. Until next time, keep diving deep.